are now at Websummit in Lisbon, and here with you are Natutava, co-founder of Coins Telegram Media Group, and our guest Alex Gluchowski, who is co-founder of Meta Labs and zkSync, Ethereum zk-EVM scaling solution. Great to have you here, Alex.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, can you tell us how did you get into crypto space? When did you first discover it?
I learned about Bitcoin, I think, 1 year after it was created. And it fascinated me because it resonated a lot with my libertarian aspirations and like the ideas of freedom and Austrian economics and personal sovereignty. I thought at first it's going to be just a toy to illustrate some ideas, but it actually took traction, and I was very impressed how it developed. But when I really got interested is when Ethereum started to become really tangible, and I thought like that is the moment, that is the technology we can actually use to build an alternative economic financial system, like basically to build what I would now describe as the Internet of Value, or like Web3. I think it's a very good metaphor, like just the continuation of the evolution of the internet, where what internet has done to information, we're going to do to the world of value, including all kinds of transactions, assets, identities, etc., etc.
And how come did you know out about Bitcoin that early? In what were you involved before?
Before working in crypto, I was a software engineer working as a CTO on multiple projects. I was co-founder of a few startups, and I moved from there towards crypto almost directly. So I spent a year doing consulting from out of Hong Kong, and then came back to Europe and founded Meta Labs.
And zero knowledge proofs is quite an old concept from the last century. Have you heard about it before discovering crypto and Bitcoin?
So zero knowledge proofs is the technology that we use, but we use it in a very different context. We're not using it for the zero knowledge aspect. We're using something called succinct zero knowledge proofs, or SNARKs. And a better name for it would be proofs of computational integrity, where we can prove that certain computations were done correctly without anyone having to watch us, or without requiring any trust in us. So indeed, these protocols have been in work for the last 30 years, but they only got mature enough to being used in actual production about two years ago, with the invention of Growth 16, Plonk, etc., like all these technologies, and especially recursive Plonk, recursive proof compositions, which allow us today to basically go uncapped in the number of transactions, in the number of total throughput, total capacity that we can support.
And how and when did the idea of starting zkSync come to you? What was the reason?
I was looking into different problems in the cryptocurrencies, like in the blockchain world, let's say, that would have to be solved in order for blockchain, for crypto to get to the mass adoption, to go mainstream. And scalability was one of them, and it was kind of clear, like there were a few optimistic developments like plasma and state channels, but it became very quickly clear that they lack some technological breakthrough to get out of the blockchain trilemma, which otherwise would make it impossible to scale crypto to the world without losing the properties that make it valuable in the first place, that made Bitcoin and Ethereum and like truly decentralized blockchain networks valuable. That is full trustlessness and full security without relying on any third parties. It was only after I saw zero knowledge proofs, specifically succinct zero knowledge proofs, I thought, wow, we can apply that to plasma and maybe try to solve the trilemma, and this is indeed what happened.
Did you run any other startups, crypto startups, before starting zkSync?
No, I jumped right into scalability.
And what did you do before in crypto? You just invested, or were you involved as well into any projects?
I was just learning. I bought some Bitcoin at in the early days, sold all of that at like half the price when the price crashed. And I was mostly learning. I was not involved specifically in crypto projects. I was thinking about building a project on Bitcoin for reputation, but it never, I didn't feel that Bitcoin was mature enough to go mainstream to actually like fully follow it.
And now you recently launched as well mainnet, baby alpha. Congratulations on it.
Thank
so
you.
Can you tell more about this?
Yes, it's been a combination of 4 years of our work. We started 4 years ago with like basic primitives, then we gradually built the very first rollup for simple payments, application-specific rollup, and then based on those ideas, we made it generic and allowed general purpose programming, specifically with Solidity, with EVM-compatible EVM applications, and this is now known as zkEvm. And Baby Alpha is the first zkEvm to hit the Ethereum mainnet. We're extremely excited.
Is it on your shot, the baby alpha cat?
No, it's called the cat is called Zeke, which is our company cat.
Okay, that's funny. And as well now there are as well different other zkEVMs and other ZK solutions, Stackware, Scroll, Polygon as well launched their ZK Hermes, Polygon Hermes. What are the differences and what are the advantages of zkSync in comparison to those solutions?
Well, let's begin with saying that zkSync, everything we do is measured against a mission. Our mission is to scale, to accelerate the mass adoption of crypto for personal privacy, for personal sovereignty. So it's very important not just to scale crypto, to scale it in a way that makes personal sovereignty inalienable. And every design decision we make at zkSync, every organizational decision, is aimed at accomplishing this mission. And it's great to see many projects doing different experiments in the space. We pioneered the zkEvm technology. We first introduced the idea, I think 2 years ago. We built the very first prototype. We launched our internal testnet over a year ago. We launched it for the public in February this year. And now we launched the very first zkEvm on the mainnet in this limited form. So we're just going to do our best to keep innovating and keep pioneering and keep building interesting stuff. Because what's interesting about zkSync, and I think it differs us from technologically from different competing approaches, is that it combines the ability to port your existing applications from Ethereum, or to develop applications in Solidity, which is a familiar language for developers, and you don't have to learn any new stuff. Don't have to learn new programming models. You just follow the way you do it on Ethereum. So we're fully compatible with basically with most opcodes. We will support, I think, 100% opcodes by I think by beginning next year. It depends on how priorities are set in the roadmap. But like we eventually will support everything. But in addition to that, you have a few unique features that are currently only available in zkSync across all zkEvm solutions. Number one is account abstraction. That is hugely important for the UX of mass adoption. Mass adoption is not only about
the account abstraction.
I'll explain in a second. So mass adoption is not just about throughput, the number of transactions per second. It's also about the user experience that is suitable for masses, for millions of people. You can't expect millions of normal, ordinary users to learn about secret phrases and to be able to, to have to deal with gas in some special tokens, etc. So we want to abstract all of that away and make accounts where people can do something like you're familiar with Argent wallet, where you can just log in with your normal email and telephone number, but still have full custody of your funds. And this requires account abstraction, or the ability to pay in any token that you're transacting, like in Ether if you want, or in USDC, in DAI, in whatever stablecoin you're using, and have the account recoverability through social recovery or through some authority or through deadman switch, etc. So that is what account abstraction is about. next comes the ability to develop applications in not just Solidity but in other languages as well. And we are pioneering the approach with compiler based on LLVM technology, which is a very mature compiler framework, which allows us to, in the future, to add libraries and code bases written in other languages, such as C++ or Rust, and reuse them all in a blockchain context, or create new applications for which Solidity would be too cumbersome because it's not expressive enough.
So do you mean in this case zkSync may become layer 2 as well for other layer 1s, for other blockchains? So how will it be?
Yeah, so the third really big innovation we're doing in the zk-EVM world is the what we call hyperchains. That is layer 3 on zkSync, but done in a very specific way, so that you have essentially the internet of those hyperchains that are connected by native frictionless bridges, fully trustless, that actually act as bridges and not as what we know today as bridges, which is a bit flawed analogy, because you can send assets from any hyperchain to any other hyperchain. You can deploy hyperchains permissionlessly. You can customize them in multiple ways. So you can have your own token if you need, or you can have your own validator set, or you can define your sequencing policy. You can define your data availability policy. You can have a hyperchain. One hyperchain can be a ZK Rollup, which fully inherits the security and censorship resistance from Ethereum. Another one can be Validium, which goes for the maximum throughput, but at some security trade-offs that the users are willing to take. Or you can go for ZK Porter, which is a kind of a combination, a mix between the two, where data availability is secured by a set of incentivized validators, right? And then the users can decide which account security trade-offs they're willing to take. And yeah, and you can define your own tokenomics, you can your own sequencing policies, etc. So this is, it's impossible to build an internet running on a single server, no matter how powerful the server is, even if it's a cluster of servers. That is not how internet is done. Like, internet is connecting multiple, many different applications, websites, services, platforms, etc. In the same way, it's going to be, we believe it's going to be this internet of different networks that must seamlessly be interoperable between each other. And I think that it offers so many advantages to build something like that, this network, on top of Ethereum, rather than try to bootstrap your own security with alternative L1s. But those blockchains that currently exist, they offer some value to the users, not just based on technology, but based on the community, based on certain principles and certain other external factors that they offer. And I can totally imagine a future in which some of them launch as hyperchains on top of Ethereum, secured by the open source zk-EVM solution like zkSync.
And in September, we had the merge, the transition of Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake. And a lot of people have concerns that with the transition to proof of stake, Ethereum became less secure and more centralized. And as well, we see the case as well with OFAC compliant blocks. So what are your thoughts on this?
I believe that this is a very important topic for the community to keep an eye on. We must protect the infrastructure, the basic values of the infrastructure that make Ethereum, the basic ethos, security, trustlessness, censorship resistance at all costs. It must be done technologically, and we deeply believe in that, and we're going to take steps at zkSync to make sure that the base layer for zkSync remains fully censorship resistant.
So how can we ensure this at this stage?
There are multiple approaches, and we will be sharing more details as we come closer to the solution, to actual opening of the solution. But there are technological ways to do it. And I think Ethereum is also looking at some of these innovations. And yeah, it's important to balance the community oversight and the technological means to protect censorship together. But technology must be the primary driver of security and protecting those values.
And as well, there are a lot of talks currently about layer 3 solutions. And as well, you announced recently that you would be working on a layer 3 opportunity. So can you explain what layer 3 is and how will it work and on what you currently working?
Sure. So layer 3 is the idea that you can have independent blockchains acting, like the idea that you might know from Cosmos or Polkadot ecosystems, that you have the internet of blockchains, but that derive their security from the underlying base chain. In our case, it's Ethereum, through but in a much more scalable way, because you build them not directly on top of Ethereum, but on top of the layer 2. It's important for technological reasons, specifically in the context of zero-knowledge proofs. Like a very simple reason is that verifying zero-knowledge proofs on Ethereum is very costly. But verifying a zero-knowledge proof on zkSync is negligibly cheap. It's like just a few cents. So you can have a lot of those chains. And it's very important that they are built in a certain way to enable this trustless bridging between them. If you do it if you don't follow specific guidelines, specific principles, you will end up with an ecosystem similar to what we currently have, where you have disparate bridges between disparate networks, and they just don't offer the seamless trustlessness. You always have, it's like you have to instead of just sending your assets from one chain to another, you have to park them on one side and then go on the other side and hope that whatever you park here is not stolen. And that is problematic in multiple ways. So there are solutions to minimize the trust there. We believe that you eventually the end game is going fully trustless, and that is only possible with in the ZK world with L3s.
And as well, now there are a lot of talks about possible zkSync airdrop. Can you comment on this? Do you plan to launch your token soon?
I cannot comment on this. We are currently not having any token, and we're focused on the core technology, because there is a lot of work to be done in the core technology. And, yeah.
And you are focusing quite a lot on mass adoption of crypto. So how do you see the development of industry in 5 years?
I believe that we will see exponential steps. When the capacity of systems rises 10x, the number of use cases goes up exponentially, like 1000x. And we will see that with a lot of different applications. We see a lot of enterprises and existing big services and big communities, such as Reddit or Meta or other platforms going blockchain, or at least experimenting. They're not fully going blockchain. For now, they're just running different smaller experiments. But once they understand the full potential, and once they find their specific product market fits for what they are doing with the metaverse, with Web3 community and decentralized networks, we will see them just going exponential. And I cannot predict it. I'm not a futurologist. My job is to make sure that zkSync fulfills its purpose and creates this trustless infrastructure layer on which others can build the useful applications.
And the catalyst of the previous bull market were DeFi and NFTs. So what, in your opinion, can be the next catalyst for the next bull market, and how do you see generally the development of current market? It's obviously that we see much bigger adoption, much more projects in the industry, and they are much more mature. So how do you see all that?
Well, I'm not a really good candidate for predictions to make. It's in my experience, it's always clear in retrospect like what was the big thing that interested people, but it's really hard to predict. It's going to be, you know, like this big, like NFTs, for example. Vitalik Buterin shared that he did not see that coming. It's really hard to predict. So what you want to do instead is you want to create a field of opportunities where like a lot of different use cases can be tried out. People can experiment with them, and then the people will eventually decide what is this thing that is, you know, like really interesting, and then it goes viral and it gets really a broad adoption. So what's important is to keep experimenting and to create the environment in which this experiment can flourish.
And can you share as well some use cases for the use of zkSync? Like recently, for example, Aave announced that they will launch some testnet of zkSync. With which other companies do you cooperate?
We have a big list. I don't want to mention a few to not offend the others, but we have over 150 partners lined up for committed to launching zkSync once we open the gates to the users, and we're going to do it in a way of a fair launch where everyone can launch at the same time. So all legit projects who subscribe, who commit to launching and apply for it will be able to launch. So we're not intending to do any whitelisting other than just like basic check that the project is legit and not some you know, like a black hat.
And do you plan as well to work with any enterprises?
For sure, we have also a number of enterprises lined up. Yes.
That's great. And can you share as well some upcoming plans for the development of zkSync?
We have our public roadmap on our website. We just launched a brand new website. Please check it out there. We have a detailed explanation of every single next step, what is coming, and what you will be able to do at this step.
So maybe you can share briefly.
So the next step will be onboarding projects on the zkSync mainnet. So currently you can just go on testnet. Everything is fully functional, pretty stable, running since, as I said, February. And after that, the next step will be opening the gates to the end users.
Great. So wish you good luck with the development and hope to see the realization of your mission and of a mass adoption of crypto and protection of digital sovereignty.
Thank you. And I also want to call out to the audience and say that we are actively expanding our team, and if you're interested in working with us, joining the mission, we have a lot of open positions, and we're also open for crypto native people, for talented developers to just apply and talk to us, and we'll find something to cooperate on.
Thank you.